from Kisumu County, and we are focusing, as usual, every Monday, 8 to 9, we are focusing on issues that actually affect the people and the businesses of this particular region. And today, we will be talking matters leather, and we have the Secretary General of the Leather Apex Society of Kenya, Maurice Omondi, of course, who will be delving deeper into exactly that sector, the challenges, what needs to be done, and of course he'll be telling us where they are as at now in terms of just ensuring that indeed that sector can actually rake in enough resources and create employment for the Kenyan populace. But also, I just want to make it clear that yesterday we had actually put out posters to the effect that we'll be hosting the former Deputy Chief of Staff in charge of delivery and government efficiency in the office of the President Eliud Owalo, who has since resigned. And of course, we're expecting him today in the morning to have a discussion around his presidential bid and exactly how he's actually going to navigate through the entire process. And we were actually expecting him till later in the night when he did place a call and say that he will not be available for today's interview because of very many other unforeseen factors. And of course, he's actually gone on to resign from his position. Of course, it is an issue that we'll be keeping our eyes on keenly to just see how it's going to unravel in terms of his next step. And of course, you can trust us in terms of ensuring that indeed we bring you first-hand information of what will be happening in that sphere. But of course, we come back to Maurice Omondi. Maurice Omondi, karibu sana. Maurice, in 1979, the leader sector was one of the major import earner for the country. What happened?
Once again, my name is Maurice Omondi, the Secretary General of Leather Apex Society of Kenya. We are an apex body for all the value chain association in the leather sector. Now, coming back to your question,
all the bodies.
That's the associations.
The associations, yes, those associations.
Yes.
Just kindly enumerate them, because a layman on the ground would actually think that there are probably one or two. But as we were having a discussion off camera, you told me there are quite a number.
Well, and the value starts and the quality starts at the farm, because the first person to handle leather is actually the farmer. And that's the first person that must be given the first information to take care of leather. Then after that, we go to the abattoirs. Those are people who are killing and the way they flay. Flaying is actually...
Killing or slaughtering?
Slaughtering, sorry. Slaughtering and then flaying. That is actually a very important point where we have an association that stands for there. Then after that, leather can be used in two areas. In West Africa, they are actually using so much for food, and it's another export line that is actually competing with the raw materials as we speak. And then from there, you can also preserve it. There are several ways of preserving the leather. You can use direct sun, which when you use it direct sun, we might not be able to use it for manufacturing. So, but then you can also use suspension. You use salt, industrial salt to preserve. You do that, then it is for us to add value. So leather, when you add value, it gives you almost 21 times the value of what it is by the time you are doing the flaying. So we have an association in the hides and skin. So the hides and skin can either export it at that point, because there are some people who are looking for the same raw materials from Kenya, and they can export it. Then there are tanners. Once you go to the tanners, there are people who now convert it from now the raw hides or skin, and I say the hide is for the bigger animals, the skin is for the small one, the goats, and even the fish has got leather.
Yes.
So when at that point, it just from the tanners, now it goes to people who add value. Yeah, like now I'm also, besides being the Secretary General, I'm also the Chairman of Leather Articles Entrepreneurs Association. We have those people who are informal, like the one that you see in Kariako and all over the country that are making shoes and other bags. The informal and the formal ones who are doing very good bags, handmade, and they are liked so much in Europe and America. That's another one. And then they have the cobblers. The Cobblers Association, there are people who are actually handling leather for repairs. And it is a very big industry, people don't know. Because you might buy a shoe at 15,000, and then it just gets torn. You'll have to repair it. And then we have also the scientists and the academicians that they are also, that's another line of, and the people doing marketing. So along that value chain, we collapse it into one, so that when we are speaking to the government, because if we are disintegrated, it's not very easy for government to get policy on that. So like you mentioned, in 1979, leather in Kenya was a key import earner after tea. But then when after 1980s, when the market was liberalized, it was like you have to buy what is competitive. You must not be able to close your economy. Then our economy was not ready. So we lost it out because whatever we were manufacturing was not competitive in quality and pricing. So we lost it. So by losing it means that all the value chain I've mentioned, people lose jobs.
And they collapse. So the question is that what are we doing wrong, and what can we do in terms of ensuring that indeed we reverse the trends to a level where we can actually start reaping maximally from that particular sector?
As we speak, the leather apex exists for that. And that's why we were formed. When the government realized in 2002 that we are losing out in job creation, yet the consumption of leather products is increasing, then they realize there's a gap. It means that we are importing more than we are consuming. Then very soon we are going to be a net importer of all that we are consuming. And because Leather Apex also sits at the East African leather desks, it is presumed that the year 2035, East Africa will be consuming around 567 million pairs of shoes, but out of that, only a quarter will be manufactured within the East Africa. So to reverse the trend, as you have said, we must start by discussing and putting things into place on how do we do it. At the moment, we realize the Leather Apex, together with the government, realize that even our military police and the NYS were consuming imported products. Then President Uhuru, we lobbied and he gave a presidential decree that nothing should be imported that is being consumed by our military. And we were challenged. And as I speak, the government is actually 100% consuming the military, police, and everything that has been manufactured locally. That one gives room for us to manufacture. But the number is very small. And at the moment as we speak, even up to last week, we were speaking to the Ministry of Education and the Treasury on how we can actually put as a procurement item for back-to-school shoes. Because I realize some of us, and I've talked to sitting and former CSs, and they are telling me the time they were only putting shoes when we are going to Form 1. That is the same trend if you go to the rural areas of this country. Most either they have an inappropriate shoes or nothing. So we said from the Leather Apex, and we are discussing with government, that we need to put a vote aid for the free primary that they have, so that at least, and that will give us around 21 million pairs of shoes. And it will require more than 50 billion for us to be able to do that. And that is money that is just circulating within the country. So leather is wealth for me, and we just need to be able to pull the market towards what we are producing to give us room to be able to compete.
Maurice, when you look at the figures that you're actually mentioning, yes, this is a low-hanging fruit that each and every one of us is just passing by, yeah, and actually choosing to ignore, right? Yeah. And one of the, before I go to the next question that I wanted to ask is that how then do we ensure that we can actually satiate the demand that is actually there? Because the demand is there. Talking about 600 and something million shoes that is just in demand, and we are just able to actually provide just a quarter of it, right? In schools alone, you're talking about 21 million plus, right? So then that means that this is a sector that jobs are just waiting to be exploited, resources actually being exploited, waiting to be exploited. How then do we move from a level where we are looking at a fruit hanging on the tree and actually exploiting that fruit?
One is about inputs. You know, almost, if you're doing tanning, like I'm a small tanner in Kisumu, almost 21 we use 23 chemicals, and out of the 23 chemicals, 21 are imported. Yeah, so that one makes it very uncompetitive for us. So what we are telling the government, because we are leveraging in the Ethiopia, which has done very well, and Egypt. What we can do a bonded kind of arrangement, so that as an association we bring those inputs here, and then we can give them to our members at a very reduced price that is competitive. They can be able to make them. That's number one. Number two, I told you about the market.
Just before you continue, Maurice.
Yes.
Maurice, relying on you said about 21 chemicals.
Yeah, 23 chemicals.
23 chemicals, right?
Yes.
To get leather, right? 21 of them, or 23, or whichever 21 of them actually imported.
Yes.
How do you remain competitive? Because if, for instance, I'm competing against Ethiopia, right? And Ethiopia is actually the producer of those chemicals. How do they favor me in terms of ensuring that whatever I'm trying to produce here at home is slightly cheaper or competitive to whatever they're having in their markets?
Of Ethiopia, and more of them is what you call FDI, foreign direct investment. The investors come and do a bulk purchase through their apex body like ours, and then we go buy them at very reduced cost. It's actually a lot of the tax has been removed from it, so that I can go to access it. That's number one. Number two, we are negotiating with the government on how we can be able to have a central place where we can even manufacture some things like dyes and some chemicals like binders, and even, in fact, do you know we have too much resources. The only thing that we don't know how to be able to convert those resources, like there's what we call fat liquor. Fat liquor is actually the normal fat that you have from animals, and then they just put it into a situation where you can be able to use it. Like we have sunflowers all over. We can plant sunflower. So we are looking for a situation where the government, and we are actually talking to government on how we can be able to talk to the institutions like Kenya Industrial Research to do more research, so that we can be able to have reverse engineering of whatever is coming to the country, that we can manufacture it locally. It creates more jobs, because then we will be importing very little. By the way, like chrome, some of these chemicals is just about scientific mixtures of other chemicals. Then you have it. Like now we are getting so much from India and Germany. But these are things that we don't need to be able to import. So one of the the land that we are engaging the government is, the Kirdi is a research institution. Kenya Industrial Research Estates provides money. So we mix the same and train more people on how to make the same and be able to provide it locally. That's already the job created at the point of of entry, yes.
Maurice, from your talk, you are painting a picture where that looks like there's a great disconnect from the research department and I mean what you guys are supposed to be doing, and probably even the government, right? Then the question is, because I have done quite a number of stories of young researchers who are exploring areas that we hitherto were not thought to be very constructive to the hides and or leather sector. For instance, fish. And there was a young researcher here at Kemfree called Dennis, and there's another lady called Helen. And they've done quite a lot in terms of just converting that fish skin into leather and actually coming up with shoes and what have you, right? That essentially means that there's something that these researchers can actually do. Where's the place of young people, young researchers into this sector in terms of ensuring that indeed we can actually be playing at the same par with the big boys in the sector?
Thank you. The only missing link between our researchers and the researchers of other third world country, I mean for the advanced country, is the commercialization of our research.
Yes.
You realize that Kirdi has a lot
of uptake, because commercialization comes with uptake of that research.
Commercialization to the market and then preparing the market to take what I'm doing. So you realize that sometimes a lot of research is done and they do it like on daily basis. Then they are just paperwork and then thrown on the shelf. I have personally I'm a product of what you call the business incubation. Business incubation was like you are taken in by Kirdi with your idea, and then once they perfect everything by standardizing making sure that what you're doing is within the levels that can be able to compete. Like KEBS comes in, you patent your products through KIPI, and then you are just prepared. All the bodies that are there that are supposed to be there to help you makes you ready. But then you realize, like the fish leather, when it was fish leather research started in 1985 in this country, for your information. It was done and it was ready to go to the market. But then when it was supposed to go to the market, somebody like me, when I went into Kenya Industrial Research, I realized that this thing is already a product that I just need to add into other products. Then I push the market. But that is a very heavy line that requires a lot of somebody to be still incubated, and then you help him also prepare the market. Now, you could get good products, but then marketing of the same becomes a very big problem. That's why we are saying that the former Export Promotion Council of Kenya, the now is called Kebroba, or they should develop a line where they are just, with biasness, take this product and go look for market for it. Like what the Chinese are doing. The China, what you see coming here have been done with very small people in very small industries. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they call it small industries. They put it together and then they go look for the market. And that one is done by the government. So I know the government is doing a lot, especially at the research, and they have also provided a lot of funds for the youth. There is the youth fund, there is the women fund, then now there's the hustler fund. But you see, this money sometimes it is not sufficient. You want to give me 50,000 shillings for a product that requires maybe 100 or even 1 million shillings to be able to roll through. So we need to hybrid or make the money cheap, not affordable, not cheap.
Affordable.
Yes.
Affordable. Yes. Maurice, when you talk and you are the Secretary General of the Leather Apex Society of Kenya, right? You are painting a picture of he's supposed to be doing. I am watching if he's doing or not, and if he's not doing it, then we are, of course, all of us being affected. How then do we create synergies between these very important organizations, the Leather Apex Association, the government, the researchers unit, and of course even the players in the sector, so that then there's a common understanding of exactly what we need to do, so that then this sector, as you have already said, we can actually exploit the very vast opportunities that are actually in that particular sector.
Synergies is a very good important point, because the way we are approaching it at the moment is we are going through the PPP. We have realized that it's not very possible for government to consume its own products. And every year they put a lot of budget. In fact, the government has put heavy budgets for the leather development in this country. And we have Kenya KLDC, which is actually the first point of reception of information that we have. But then you realize that most of the information and whatever has been budgeted is actually maybe at the research level or at training level, but not at building the markets. So what we have decided, for example, what I mentioned to you, we realized that, okay, now that we don't have the market and we have the product, how can we make sure that we are consuming our own? I can't do it as a private sector, because somebody would say that I'm biased for people who are importing. By the way, I was told that what the government is looking for is from KRA, how much am I collecting from either imports or whatever is made locally. But then I asked them a simple question before I answer that question. As you buy a shoe that are manufactured locally and you buy a shoe that has been imported, the value through the process, right from hides and skin to when I am putting it on, has affected so many people and created so many jobs. But when you just import it, just one person, a trader, and maybe somebody who is going to distribute it, are going to have, so it's going to have a minimal effect on the economy. So we have come to agree with the government one thing, that whatever is going to be consumed for our country needs to be discussed between the government and the private sector. And as we speak, that's why I'm telling you, we have meetings that we are actually, like the presidential decree on military issues, we have meetings after every 3 months. And we bring in all the procurement organizations and tell us what they have procured, and we call it traceability, to check that it's true, because some people actually, when they are given orders, they can still import brand. Yeah, so what we are saying is that we have to, there are so many import lines that we have to be able to look at very critically, so that we can actually, I don't know whether it's, when I call protecting the market, with a liberal kind of market, it will look like it will, like the common.
But what is it need be? The market must be protected. Market must be protected for our local, entrepreneurs and innovators to actually thrive. Going to the next question, going to the basics. You look around, and in our off-camera conversation, I was telling you that when I was still young, I would see someone walking around picking those skins and hides in our villages, and of course those small butcheries around the village. Yes, abattoirs, right? Yesterday we were having a conversation with one of our leading politicians in this region, and one of the things he said was that he's keen on ensuring that we have a serious abattoir in Migori because of the livestock that is actually found there. And then two, also to ensure that the amount of or the price of the hides and skins, he says that package is just about 50 bob, right? However, when that skin has actually, or hide has actually been processed, and we have a shoe, we are selling it up to 50,000 shillings. The variance is embarrassing.
The question has come in several ways. Because
the basics, we must ensure that those basics are there, abattoirs are there and enough, so that then there's proper handling of the hides and skins that are actually available. And then two, yes, and then two, also creating awareness in terms of creating what is needed, so that then we don't sell for 50, but and you're telling me that the price had actually gone down to 10 bob.
Yeah.
Yes.
By 202, people were actually burning these things until a market came from West Africa. They eat it, and then the problem is that at the eating is that they have to sun dry it. When you sun dry any hide or skin, mostly the skins, hides, you can never use it for manufacturing, because then the composition and the cycle has been destroyed. But you have to preserve it the right way. So if I have to answer your question, I want to challenge the people who actually in the counties. As we speak, the pre-primary schools are under counties. And even if the government was to give a procurement line for back-to-school shoes that we are pursuing, the pre-primary schools is with the counties. Like the Nyeri County, we were actually establishing a manufacturing line for shoes for Nyeri County last year, where what they do is that they manufacture shoes, and then the parents have been given a very reduced price from that center they give to the children, and it's working for them. So as the politician is asking, you would want to see, we just need a discussion with them. Number one, abattoir needs to be there. If the abattoir is not there, because people who are doing the kills in the village, they don't know what that skin is meant for, and they are going to make a lot of cuts, and any knife cut, however big is a waste. Hata kama ilikuwa, even if it's a very big cow of whatever nature, any cut, especially at the major areas, it makes a waste, because then at the time when I'm selling it, there is what we call selection. Number two, the politician needs to really move very closer to the association like us. Then you tell them, at the moment, the value of a kg is lower because the demand of the same hide to finished is very low. We have, instead of tanneries and companies that are manufacturing coming up, as much as our consumption is going up, it means we are importing more than what we are producing. We are killing the industry. Therefore, as you said, protecting the market, that's an area that can be handled by the politicians. One time, we went to the East Africa, requested for 25% duty for every shoe or leather material that was coming, or $10 here was higher. Let me tell you, it worked for only 6 months. The same Kenyan government, I think synergy that we are talking about, It was decided by Ministry of Industry by then, but the Ministry of East Africa wrote back to the Ministry of East Africa, to East African desk, saying that we are becoming unfair. But see, yeah, so we shot ourselves for the foot by that time. But again, we have written back to the Deputy President. There's an economical council. We had a meeting sometimes in November, and we had written. So when we were explaining the same thing, asking how was that going to be possible? But he said sometimes the institutions that are in the government are not doing it the right way because they're just doing it for some few people who have gone to complain, some importers. But then we have to be very careful that whatever we consume is our own. But you see now, my brother, there's a problem, especially for people who are coming from Luo Nyanza. If we say that this product has been made from Italy and this one is made in Kenya, so we need to unlearn ourselves to love our own things. Yeah, because that one is another. We need to unlearn and then learn back our people that if you buy something that is locally manufactured, you are creating job for your own children. You see that are in their house and cannot be able to get any job.
So, what is, your shoes are Italian made.
Yes.
And you are the Secretary General of the Leather Apex of Kenya.
Yes.
That aside, one other major challenge that we've actually seen in this value chain, right, is the fact that we're actually exporting a lot of live animals out there, and especially in Middle East. Yes. How then do you ensure that, even in conclusion, how then do we ensure that even as we tap into that market, that we are actually exporting meat and not exporting even the hide? That, because when you're selling a goat for let's say 10,000 shillings, you're not factoring in the fact that there are other products that can actually be found from that particular animal other than meat.
One thing that you have said, which is very interesting, in a cow, there's nothing that it's thrown.
Yes.
The bones are a very big resource for ornaments for the ladies and other things. Export of live animals has reduced, but it has come in a different way, the export, where we are manufacturing up to a certain stage called the wet blue, semi-processed. Now, from the tanning, we call it tanning section, between raw up to wet blue, there are very heavy chemicals that some of them have been burnt in Europe and also in America. So what they do, they'll come and pick it when you have done the heavy work for what we call wet blue. So 95% of what we are exporting in the leather sector as we speak is actually the semi-processed product. And that's only 10% value. And on the reverse, what we are telling the government, we can only be able to make use of what we have by making market available for us, training our people and giving proper facilities to our traders and manufacturers on how they can become competitive. That was the things that I've mentioned to you about making available money for money that is affordable. You know, sometimes if I go to, like Egyptians, what they do, if now the interest rate for the bank is 23, Egypt will give that loan to a manufacturer in the sector at 5%. They take care, they caution them on that. And that's what they do. The government of Kenya had also gone that direction, but silently it has been given to the banks to give you what you call unsecured loan, but it is unsecured with the same rates. So it's not helping as much. So we are telling the government, as much as there's money that you've made available, we need to talk on the interest rates. Because the interest rate, if you have to invest in leather, my brother, now, and whatever you're paying back is more than 6%, you cannot be able to break even on that, because that the way the leather sector requires a lot of investment. By the way, the biggest investment in leather sector is actually machineries, and some of the machineries that are making us uncompetitive is what is making us incompetitive is we are using very old style machineries. That's why we told the government, let's come up with what we call common user facilities. If you go to Kenya Industrial Research, you'll find one. Ahiti Kabete will get one. Kariako, there's one. And then there's one that's coming in Machakos. There's a very big leather park that is coming in Machakos, All that is has taken much. But that was an idea that came through the discussion of Leather Apex and the government of Kenya. So what will happen, like what we call effluent treatment plant, that's a very heavy line, because whatever comes out, do you know the manure, the fur that comes from the cow, at some point, once you have used it, it becomes more like soil. It has been so used, but then you have to know how to dispose it. So we have come up with a common user facility in Machakos so that people will be in a central place. There can be so many tanneries, but then they are using one effluent plant. So those are the areas that we have, and the government is actually the only thing that the process is very slow. So we are actually talking on how this can be done. Another thing that we have done is that going forward through the government, they have said that at least every month we should be comparing notes on the things that have been done, so that we know whatever was budgeted at the Ministry of Industry, is it in place? I'm there to tell them, as much as you budgeted it or you're implementing it, you're going the wrong direction. So we just have an open room for us to be able to correct one another. Yes.
Discussion. Yes. In conclusion, the future of the industry. I mean, we're looking at the figures, quite impressive. What needs to be exploited is actually just hanging there, low-hanging fruits for us to actually exploit it. When you look at what you guys are doing and what the government is doing, and all the sector players actually putting in place in terms of ensuring that indeed this sector ticks, what is the future?
Now, let me start at the global angle. The leather sector in the global market is is 150 billion US dollars. Out of the 150 billion US dollars, Africa alone is doing 0.4%. And in Africa, Kenya is the third largest producer of hides and skins. So it means that we have the capacity to be able to do what you're doing. So the future is we need to train, we need to make money available, and then we need to be able to a little bit protect our market so that we can be able to provide competitive products for the market to be able to help us be consumed within our means. And the job, and our children that are going to school without shoes, which generation is this? This is a wonderful generation that, so if we can be able to solve problems using the challenges that are existing, then I think the leather sector is the best place to be. We are envisioning that in the next 2 years, we will be employing from 30,000 people now to maybe 150,000 people. If the government allows us to be able to push the 21 million pairs of shoes by giving us just something in their procurement line. And I think that is going to come very soon.
Fantastic. From just 30,000 job opportunities, they are projecting that they can actually hit up to 150,000 job opportunities for the young people out here. Of course, that is a sector that the government, of course, each and every person who is actually good, well thinking for the nation, needs to look at in terms of ensuring that they can actually exploit those vast potential. Of course, we've been talking to Maurice Omondi, the Secretary General of Leather Apex Society of Kenya, just delving deeper into what the government needs to do, what they are doing, and of course the opportunities that lies in that particular sector, and what they can do in terms of ensuring that indeed they can actually exploit that sector. This is a conversation that will continue. Of course, you can continue that conversation on social media handles at KBC Channel 1. Of course, you can also do it on my social media handle, that is Achola Simon, across all platforms. But also, this conversation has actually been live on Mayenga digital platform, so you can also continue to having a discussion around this particular topic on that particular platform. And of course, this is a conversation that we will want to continue, given the figures and opportunities that lies in that particular sector. On behalf of each and every person who has actually been involved in terms of ensuring that indeed this program goes on air, my colleagues here, camera persons, Christina Diembo, Swibe Nyamatika, and of course logistics person Edwin Othieno, and of course the management of this particular hotel, Mirage Palace Hotel here in Kisumu, that continue to give us this space, so then we can actually have this show. We say thank you, and we take you back to Broadcasting House.
All right, from that conversation on the leather industry by my colleague Simon Achola, we now take a break, but let me let you know what we'll be coming back to once we come back. We know we are in that, New Year mood, New Year craze, and most of us have resolutions. And when it comes to resolutions, financial resolution comes top of the list. So that is what we will be talking about today, right now, after the break. So don't you go too far. We'll be coming back and I'll introduce my guests to you as we take it away on the financial bit of your resolution.